So now it's time for our top 5, and today
we are doing top 5 white male privilege in movies.
That's right.
Of all time. This was a big bucket to dig through.
Yes, it really was. And we understand, like, you may not agree with our top 5, so comment and just, give us your top 5 and what we missed.
Right.
And there's so much that could have been on this list. Because to be honest, Hollywood is about white male privilege, right?
And the reason we did this was because of the timing of everything that's going on in America right now in Hollywood. And so we were actually going to do something else, but last night Grant and I were working late in the hours for this beautiful show that we're doing, and we changed it.
Yeah.
So here we go.
So number 5 is Breakfast at Tiffany's. A lot of people are going to be mad at that because people love this movie. It's written by Truman Capote.
Yeah.
It's about this sort of independent woman who's quasi beatnik. She's does whatever the hell she wants or whatever. But the film is completely riddled with white male privilege. And the first part of that is Mickey Rooney's portrayal of a Japanese neighbor.
Mr. Go right through. Someday, Mr. Go right through.
What happened to you anyway? You take off for the powder room, and that's the last I see you.
Now, really, Harry?
Harry was the other guy. I'm Sid Arbuck. You like me, remember?
Mr. Go right through. I protest.
Oh, darling, I am sorry, but I lost my key.
But that was 2 weeks ago. You cannot go on or keep ringing my bell. You disturb me. You must have a key made.
But it won't do any good. I just lose them all.
He's got the teeth, and it's just such a gross caricature of Asian Americans. And the thing is, the white privilege is so powerful. Nobody even said. He says I didn't even know this was offensive. For 40 years, nobody said anything. And because it's okay for a white person to take on yellowface, right? And the other sort of white privilege about it is...
Didn't I pick up the check for 5 people, your friends? I never seen them before. And when you ask for a little change for the powder room, what do I give you? A $50 bill. Now, doesn't that give me some rights?
It's it's about this male writer. He's a novelist. He's sort of the moral center of the film. And Audrey Hepburn plays kind of a troubled woman with a past, and she keeps trying to reinvent herself. But in the end, because he's such a strong man, she finally gives up her search for a rich guy and embraces him. We don't know if they get married, but there's that last scene where they're in the rain and she gets the cat back and they kiss, and it's just her being with the white male dude who's smart or whatever.
And
it solves all her problems.
Right.
She doesn't go off and say, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go be by myself." She goes back to the white male dude. Yeah, it's bad when you really get down to it.
Most of mine.
Number five.
Okay, number 4, Smokey and the Bandit. 1970. What year was that? 1977.
Yes, I saw it in the theater when it came out, man.
I mean, I have a dirty pleasure to say I love this movie. I do. I loved it when it came out. I still love it. But it is an absolute white male privilege movie because who gets to drive? Imagine a black version of this.
It's hard.
Smokey and the Bandit with a black cast trying to drive across how many states? In a fucking... In a Trans Am, I mean, the military would have been called out,
He's going 120 miles an hour.
Yeah, exactly. And they're smuggling alcohol, by the way. They're smoking a bunch of illegal alcohol for a party or whatever it is that they're doing.
Georgia. Right?
And so they cross all these state lines. And the 2 leads, the 2 main guys, or all 3 leads really, Sally and everybody, are white. But Burt Reynolds is the main lead, and he's a typical white guy. But the killer, the greatest, from this movie is Jackie Gleason, who plays Buford T. Justice. And he says some of the most outlandish lines.
Hey, boy, where's Sheriff Bradford?
I am Sheriff Branford.
Oh, yeah, for some reason or another, you sounded a little taller on radio.
Now, I was watching this earlier, trying to figure this out. I think in some levels they are making fun of something here with his character. So maybe they might be a little bit aware of at least this old-timey Southern white privilege that Buford T. Justice represents.
Yeah.
But even with that, it's still a white male privileged movie because
he gets to say
because
it.
of Burt Reynolds. Yeah, he gets to say it, but also Burt Reynolds is still, you know, it's that, you know, this is my country. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know?
There's no
But some of the
consequences.
lines from Jackie Gleason will shock you. And let me give you a couple.
Oh, shit.
So, he's sitting there and he's talking to his son, Junior, who's a complete idiot. And he says, he's talking about Sally. What's her last name?
Fields.
Fields, that's right. Sally Fields. He says,
She insulted my town. She insulted my son.
Look, what if we...
Shut up. She insulted my authority.
Yeah.
And that's nothing but pure and simple old-fashioned communism. Happens every time one of those dancers start poontanging around with those showfolk facts.
that's one of the lines.
Poontanging as a verb.
Taken as a verb. Right?
That's poetic, but it is white male.
Then he says
privilege
this.
to be able to
Then he
say
says
that.
this. Talk about white male privilege and talk about old time. He goes, I didn't tell you this one yet.
No.
There's no way that you could come from my loins. Soon as I get home, the first thing I'm gonna do is punch your mama in the mouth.
God damn.
That's crap. That's in the movie.
I don't
I
think
mean,
that's
it's
funny.
shocking. It's shocking to watch this in 2017.
That counted as humor.
But that counted as humor
Hitting
back
your
in
mom.
the 70s. Hitting your punch. I'm gonna punch
Ugh.
your mother in the mouth.
Look at what.
There's no way. So
Nobody's
here's
even
what he's
born
saying.
when this
Here's what he's
movie came
saying.
out.
He's saying basically, I'm not the fault for your stupidity. It's your mother's fault. I'm gonna go punch her in the mouth.
Makes-
Right.
And all the old
Oh my
men,
God.
all the old men in the audience are like, "Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I should punch my old lady in the mouth."
Right, that's a good idea. I think
the
that's
whole
my,
thing.
yeah.
Because it's basically
I mean,
Laura Mulvey's
Yeah,
days,
I
right?
mean, here's the thing that we were the dilemma of Grant and I coming up with this list last night was there's so many of these movies. There's just so many of these movies. I mean, obviously, you know,
Almost all the movies.
exactly. And here's the deal: what we were watching. We were watching Porky's. Porky's almost made the list, and it's like, you know, what does this tell you? As a young male, like if you're watching this, you know, if she's a little hesitant, you just gotta push and
That's
be
gonna go
more
on-
aggressive.
That's gonna go on the list. Let's
All
get
right,
back to the list.
all right, back to the list. Your turn.
Number 3 is The Quiet Man by John Wayne. Really, any John Wayne film.
Hey, John Wayne.
Thank you.
and so like we're getting
He
deep.
is
Like
the-
you can't. I mean, some people will be like, "Wait, why isn't he number 1?" But
If he's
just
not,
wait.
no,
Just wait.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he should. It was hard not to pick.
Yeah, I
him
mean,
up.
so the Quiet Man, you know, he basically midpoint of the movie, he basically storms into Maureen O'Hara's little like Irish sort of hovel. He puts her in her place, right? He hits her.
Why you...
It's only 5 miles.
right? And there's so many movies where like,
And then she falls in love with him.
Yeah, right. Of course she does. And then of course like The Searchers, where Natalie Wood plays the Native American. Like it's just
it's so bizarre what Hollywood was like.
But for many Americans, John Wayne is the symbol of America. But they don't see the message that sends is that
we're
America
pissing
is
people
white
off.
male.
We're pissing people off with this list. I
Yeah.
know that for a fact. Some of these
It's
movies,
just true. You gotta
not John Wayne.
recognize.
I was never a fan of John Wayne. I was a fan of Clint Eastwood, so it was a different version of John Wayne, but basically John Wayne.
Yeah, that's right.
The movies that we have on this list, there's a couple that I really, really, truly love. And,
Yeah, sure.
But I just like to be aware of what I'm aware of.
Because your drunken uncles
Because drunken uncles
try to be woke.
That's right. We awoke people. We awoke uncles.
I think it's important to include trying. Like, we're always trying.
We're just trying. But you gotta try
Just trying to
hard.
move forward, man. Just trying to
You
move
gotta try
forward.
hard.
Sometimes.
I heard you trying.
Oh, number 2. And boy, is my email gonna blow up on this one. My email's gonna explode. But one of my favorite movies, Animal House. There is not, and I love this movie, but
Yes.
there is not, almost not, because we still have to get number 1, a more white male privileged movie in the world. It's all about boys will be boys mentality. It is all about that. They get away with everything. Except, I mean, they don't murder anybody, but that's like,
They blow
that's
shit
just,
up.
that's just like a happenstance.
somebody
Like,
could've died.
someone didn't get murdered? Oh, well,
I mean, when
we
those
got lucky.
cans come down, somebody could've died.
Exactly.
Shit.
They just got lucky with everything.
That's right.
And we have examples.
Yeah, we do.
We have examples. The one that for me, that's the big one, is the devil angel on the young fraternity character's shoulders.
And it's like, what's his name from like Amadeus? Tom.
Yeah,
what's his name?
He's
Like-
from Amadeus. That's right. Yeah. So he's got the devil and the angel on his shoulders, and I watched this scene earlier today. Ironically, actually, surprisingly, it's on YouTube and it shows the nudity, but which I didn't think YouTube did. The character is Clarette. Clarette is the young girl, the young woman, and she passes out. She's too drunk, and the devil's like,
Fuck her. Fuck her brains out. Suck her tits, squeeze her buns. You know she wants it.
For shame! Lawrence, I'm surprised at you.
Ah, don't listen to that jack off. Look at those gazongas. You never get a better chance.
If you lay one finger on that poor, sweet, helpless girl, you'll despise yourself forever. I'm proud of you, Lawrence.
You homo.
because the guy makes the right choice and doesn't sleep with her, but the devil says,
You mean doesn't rape her?
yeah, doesn't rape her. He goes,
It's a
exactly right. It's a choice, and he goes. The devil says, "You fag," and then disappears. What we find out in the next scene,
And by the way, how old was she?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
In the next to the near scene, we find out she says, "I'm only 13," and then he leaves her in a shopping cart, which is, I think, symbolic. In front of her house.
Dad's house.
And I used to howl and laugh at this movie, but as an adult and living in 2017, it's shocking.
Didn't we watch it after
It's
a
shocking.
party? Like, and we were like, "Oh, let's watch Animal House." And we watched it with
I watched it with my son, and he didn't like it.
And we were like, oh,
And then we were uncomfortable. We're like, this isn't really what I want you to behave like when you go to college. Yeah. So it's
changed.
I mean, it's just shit has changed,
God.
and it really has. I mean, shit has changed. I mean, and I gotta give credit where credit's due. I think women are influencing the world. I mean, I think
But not only
my
women.
own thinking
Yeah,
has
true.
changed because.
yeah.
Maybe because I'm open to it, for sure, but also because I've found really smart women to hang out with who have said,
But it's not just women in that movie, because there's that scene where they go to the black club, you know, where Otis Day in the Night sings, and wait a minute. Yeah. And everyone loves that because they dance to shout and whatever.
Right.
But there's that scene where they come over, where the band comes over and it goes,
Do you mind if we dance with your dates?
Why, no, not at all. Go right ahead.
mind if we dance with your dates? And the little white dudes are all like scared, like it's like big black dudes are like the scariest thing you can imagine. They want our white women's like it's just
total stereotyping.
Yeah, and the fear, we're supposed to identify with their fear because of the huge blackness of these characters, right?
Right, and then
how they want the white women.
Exactly, and all the white men are small, and
it just plays into the worst racism that basically engendered the whole like segregation movement and lynching and everything.
And was still very prevalent. It still is. Let's just say. But I mean that thinking and that kind of fear is still, that brand of racism is still prevalent.
Absolutely,
it's so unconscious in this film.
Yeah,
and that's why it's on our list.
That's why it's number 2 because I mean, you go back and watch that. That was for comedy. Like that was for jokes. Like that was the joke. And the number 1 white male privileged movie of all time is James Bond or Bond.
All of them.
James Bond.
I mean, it really is
all of them.
I mean, let's just start with the early one. Okay, so in 1963, in the film From Russia with Love, right? He basically beats the crap out of the Russian spy, played by Daniela Bianchi.
James, you're hurting me.
I'll do worse than that if you don't tell me. You're doing this under orders, I know. What are they?
I don't know what you mean.
Liar.
This is 1963, like, so that's the first Bond film, right? He just like smacks the crap out of her, and I guess because she's Russian, she's a spy, she should be able to take it. But that's not the only film in which he hits women. Like it's a consistent theme for at least a decade, if not more. Okay, so then in the next
film,
which
is ironic. Sorry, but he actually beats his own wife and gets in trouble with that like 20 years ago.
Oh no, that's true because in an interview on Playboy in 1965, he says, if she's being a bitch or uppity or whatever, it's okay. He literally says it.
But he says it in a Scottish accent, so there's like
you're doing too Irish. In 1964's Goldfinger, Bond rapes the lesbian out of Pussy Galore. I mean, just think about all that, like her name, Pussy Galore, and it's in this barn. They literally roll in the hay.
You're quite a girl, Pussy.
I'm strictly the outdoor type.
I'd like to think you're not in all of this caper.
Skip it. I'm not interested. Let's go.
What would it take for you to see things my way?
A lot more than you've got.
How do you know?
I don't want to know.
Isn't it customary to grant the condemned man his last request?
You've asked for this. Get up.
Certainly. Yeah. Now let's both play.
He forces himself on her, and of course, you can see her like relent, like even though he's like literally raping her in the hay.
Let me ask you this question because I read that with you. I don't know this movie, so what's the lesbian aspect?
Well, she says at the beginning of the scene, "I am not interested," or whatever.
This should be a memorable flight.
You can turn off the charm. I'm immune.
Or whatever.
I got into dudes, I guess. Yeah. I mean, this is why it's
Her
the
name is
most
Pussy Galore.
white male privileged movie of all time. Because here's the number one reason. When was the last one made?
God, just 2014, 15, like.
And the
Quantum
character
of Solace.
hasn't evolved. It hasn't changed.
I'm just saying, like, Hollywood is sort of like learning. I'm not saying they've caught up at all. I'm just saying they're learning a little bit because you can't make movies like this anymore.
But what's interesting to me is how long it's taking, and it's really blown up. The Weinstein phenomenon has really blown the fucking roof off this. Is how long it's taken for the white male angle of this thing to really get, and maybe not just even white male, just male. Like, it's just interesting, but mostly white male.
I said everything I needed to say last episode in my Sam.
No, I know. I'm just thinking, like, how interesting, like, because I think Hollywood can be a catalyst for social change, and then here it hasn't been, which I find that kind of interesting and also unfortunate, or sad, or whatever, bullshit, or whatever you want to call it. So there it is, top 5.
Top 5.
Bond. James Bond.